On this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq, Iraq's Navy builds up its forces and training, and Iraqi students in Kirkuk get a fresh start to their school year. These stories and more on today's FJI. Hello, I'm Airman First Class Priscilla Christensen. Welcome to this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq. A sea change is in the works for Iraq's Navy as they prepare for dozens of new vessels and hundreds of fresh recruits. Petty Officer Patrick Dilley tells us more about the maritime developments underway at the country's southern port.
The march is on toward a bigger and better equipped Navy force at Qasr port in southern Basra province. Over the course of the next year, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Gulf Region South Division will oversee $45 million worth of construction here. The contract calls for a seawall and 2 new piers, plus power, water, and fuel distribution facilities.
Before September 2009, this pier and seawall project needs to be completed. So they have a place to tie up the new Iraqi Navy that's going to be arriving at that time.
Iraq has ordered 15 110-foot Malaysian-made patrol boats, 4 coastal patrol boats, 2 offshore support ships, and 26 U.S.-made rigid-hull fast attack craft scheduled to arrive from late 2009 through 2011.
There's a tremendous sense of urgency around getting this thing constructed right now for that very reason.
The current facility is just too small to berth that many ships. There's only enough space for a handful of Chinese-made patrol boats, smaller Italian-made patrol boats, and fast attack boats used for search and seizure operations.
This is the Iraqi Navy right here, and they're responsible for protecting the oil platforms, which produces 95% of the nation's income.
The foundation of the new port area is a seawall that will run most of the distance of this coastline. An L-shaped pier at the wall's north end will extend about 150 meters and then turn south for another 180 meters.
And that will allow them to berth their 2 offshore support vessels, their 4 patrol ships, and numerous patrol boats.
Another 150-meter T-shaped pier at the south end will complete the planned expansion.
And that will again provide capacity to berth the remainder of their patrol boats and take any other types of ships that happen to call on the port of Qasr.
The Iraq Navy also expects hundreds of additional recruits by the end of the year to help man the incoming fleet. Petty Officer Patrick Dilley, Basra, Iraq.
As Iraq's naval forces continue to grow in southern Iraq, Iraqi sailors are working to take on a more noticeable security presence in the region. Army Sergeant Mike Daly tells us how their training from the Naval Transition Team in Qasr is allowing them to play a larger role in port and platform security.
Iraqi Marines are learning how to board and search vessels.
Your primary job is to have security over the crew at first.
It's a step-by-step process, and they have to learn quickly. Their instructors are members of the U.S. Coast Guard, who are part of a naval training team.
We get 1 week of training here in the schoolhouse, and then the following week they're out in the North Arabian Gulf off of one of the coalition forces boats doing the boardings.
The Marines muster on the training deck. They enter and check fore and aft, port and starboard, upstairs and downstairs. They look for stowaways, and they learn to match passports with manifests.
The importance of checking passports to make sure these guys are who they say they are. They're here for business and not for any other reasons such as terrorism or piracy, stuff like that.
The training prepares the Marines to protect this harbor, through which most of the nation's oil is exported. The Coast Guardsmen say the Iraqi Marines are getting better.
In general, it's improving. I like to have them in the classroom for 2 weeks before we send them out there, but that's not the way the schedule is. But definitely improvement, big improvements.
From Qasr, this is Army Staff Sergeant Mike Daly.
Coming up, how the U.S. uses air power to get supplies to Iraqis.
Here's your raid report. Coalition soldiers and Iraqi security forces found a weapons cache and detained 3 individuals in connection with the cache near Balad. The cache consisted of mortars, artillery rounds, and other explosives. Iraqi security forces and U.S. soldiers seized a weapons cache during operations northwest of Baghdad. Items seized include a landmine, 2 rocket-propelled grenades, and 10 propane tanks. Near Samarra, Coalition and Iraqi security forces soldiers seized a large weapons cache. The cache contained rockets and other bomb-making materials. Coalition soldiers detained 3 suspected al-Qaeda in Iraq members in Baghdad during an intelligence-driven operation. The patrol delivered the suspects to a coalition forces base for processing and questioning. And that's your raid report. I'm Senior Airman Michael Williams.
Staying off the roads as much as possible in Iraq is a priority for U.S. forces to avoid potential IED attacks. Army Sergeant Derek Rodenbeck shows us how the U.S. Air Force is taking to the skies to deliver goods and supplies to Iraqis on the ground.
Getting troops the supplies they need as quickly and safely as possible is imperative in Iraq. One way to resupply soldiers on the ground is through an airdrop.
The purpose of airdrop company is to rig and deliver supplies to units downrange, whatever that may be, whatever is needed, and they need it in a hurry, and they need it in situations where normal vehicular convoy type vehicle delivery can't get it there.
Keeping troops off the road reduces the chance of encountering IEDs. To ensure that an airdrop goes smoothly, everyone involved needs to be proficient at their jobs. Recently, the 824th Quartermaster Company participated in an airdrop on Forward Operating Base Caldwell.
Today we conducted a proficiency airborne operation for the parachute riggers as well as the Air Force pilots and load masters and aerial delivery. The purpose of this mission was to rig up different configurations of high velocity Class 1 product and evaluate it. And overall, it was a success.
By working together, Air Force personnel and riggers ensured that the pallets moved from Joint Base Balad to a C-130 and then safely landed on the ground at Caldwell. Once the pallets were dropped, riggers at Caldwell inspected the handiwork.
Oh, it was a success. We learned a lot. We learned different rigging configurations, and survivability was pretty high.
Making sure that soldiers are as safe as possible is important, and by participating in airdrops such as this, everyone stays ready to do their job. The riggers have a sense of accomplishment, knowing that what they do makes a difference to soldiers on the battlefield.
We're keeping troops off the road and possibly saving lives at the same time. More we can put in the air is less that's on the roads.
I'm Sergeant Derek Rodenbeck with the 55th Sustainment Brigade reporting for the 3rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command.
Hundreds of students in Kirkuk can look forward to new supplies and even a new facility to start their school year off right. Petty Officer Aaron Hebner shows us how coalition donations are helping brighten the future of Iraqi children.
The cutting of a ribbon, the start of something new. For these hundreds of Iraqi school children gathered today, it's a new school in their small village outside of Kirkuk. The new school features 6 classrooms, a teacher's lounge, and a storage room. Complete with electricity, it's a huge improvement over this village's previous primary school.
The previous facility was not very conducive for learning.
The old school was a mud hut. It was made of mud, and the new school is, as you see, is furnished, and the electricity, everything is new. And this school, the capacity is bigger. It can take more students than the old one.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers brought in bags of new school supplies to celebrate the opening. The supplies were donated by Americans and handed out to the children as they anxiously awaited their new gifts.
We appreciate all the efforts of the coalition forces, and these gifts will help the students and the education in our school.
There are 4 other identical schools being built throughout the Kirkuk province, each at the cost of $80,000. They are set to be open by the start of the new school year this fall. Petty Officer Aaron Hebner, Kirkuk Province, Iraq.
And that wraps up this edition of our program. Be sure to log on to mnf-iraq.com, where you can learn all about the progress coalition forces are making throughout the country. If you have story ideas, we'd love to hear them. Just email us at fji@iraq.send.mil. From all of us here at AFN and Freedom Journal Iraq, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.